Yeah, you're good. Hey, how y'all doing? This is KLA Cloud the Wanderer, and I'm with a gentleman. His name is Anil Serpin, and he's the creator of Slow Comics. He has a series that he just came out with, and he's gonna explain how he got into it. I mean, how he started the series, and yeah, how you been, sir?
Good, good. Thank you for having me, Kayla.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, I seen your series. It's I forgot the name of it. Forgive me. I gotta pull it up.
It's
Um
Nandi and the Castle in the Sea.
Nandi and the Castle of the Sea.
Yeah.
Now how did you come up with this?
So it all kind of started a very long time ago, actually, probably more than 10 years ago that the seed was planted in my head. Um, I don't know if you subscribe to the theory that artists are just kind of a, I guess, vehicle for art rather than the actual creators of it. But I very much believe that, and I was basically just on the beach one day with my parents in their hometown in Turkey, and there's a
Right.
place there. It's called Kız Kalesi. There's a literal castle in the sea there, and so we went there. That's where my parents met. They took me to visit. It's like a tourist location, and when I was on the beach there, we had a whole bunch of people around us. But what caught my attention was the local kids that were living there on the beach, and they're just kind of hanging out, hustling tourists, gambling, playing backgammon, whatever. And like, they had so much personality to them. And they kind of fascinated me. I found myself wondering, like, what's their life like in this tourist place where they're not the tourists, they're the locals, and they're just kind of like trying to get by. And, I guess there's like two sides to every tourist town, right? There's like the side that all the tourists can see, and then there's the other side that's not so much in your face, but can be a little bit darker. And as I was thinking about that, I kid you not, I had an idea like come down like a comet and just kind of hit me in the head, and I was like, a whole world just kind of sprang into my mind, and that was a solid 10 years ago. So the seeds were planted all the way back then, and after that point, it was probably 5 years of just constantly taking notes in my phone and kind of building it up slowly, turning it into something new, something fresh, and it slowly became a fantasy world rather than just a regular story. But that was the core of the idea. And then about 5 years ago, I felt like I guess that idea had gestated enough in my head that I finally put it out on paper onto into a script. And yeah, it's all history from there. I hired an artist all the way back in 2020, and it was 5 years of just hard work at this until we finally released last year.
Okay. How's like the feedback of it? I noticed that you been on some other interviews on it, and how was like your experience of like just telling what the story's about?
Yeah, it's been really fun. I've done, I think, three podcasts in the past year. We
Yeah.
released in April, and then there were some, folks that I met either at conventions. Yeah, basically all three of them actually were connections I made when I was just selling as a vendor at comic conventions, different ones each time, and I just, found myself getting invited onto the shows, and those were really, gracious opportunities by those folks. Every single time has just been it's an enjoyable experience. I love this world. I love Nandi and the Castle on the Sea, and I love talking about it. Obviously, it's my passion. It's my life project. So yeah, everyone who gave me an opportunity to do that, it's been a blessing.
Yeah. For those who are not familiar with it, would you mind like explaining what's it about? You don't have to go too much specific details if you don't want to.
Okay, yeah, maybe not too in depth, but this is a story about a boy named Nandi. He grows up on this island. It's called Crescent Island. The story itself, I'll start with, is a fantasy and steampunk mashup story. And so, it's a fantasy world, but it has these steampunk aspects. You can see them in like the technology of it. here in this main picture you see here, the right side of it is kind of our villains, and the left side is our, I guess, proverbial good guys. Although it's not as simple as good and bad like that. But you can see the contrast here between kind of nature and the steampunk, and I try to use steampunk to create that contrast in the story. So this island, Crescent Island, you have the people who live here. They're the wood folk and the sea folk, and they kind of have to coexist. And when there's a threat to this island from, I guess, outside forces, they receive a blessing from their guardian spirit, who is this dragon you see at the top of the picture there. And the guardian puts its powers, it splits into two, and it creates a blue gem and a red gem. And these gems are given to the people of the island in order to protect themselves. This red gem, it gives you the power of fire and near immortality, while it lets you protect the island. It lets you fight off those outsiders, but it also unleashes this darkness in your heart that makes you want to keep that power for yourself instead of returning it to its rightful place and restoring that balance. And so the blue gem bear, they're actually the only person who can kill the red gem bear. That's their entire job, is to make sure that both gems after the island is safe are put back where they belong, and to give that guardian spirit its power back. But in the present day, you have this person on the top right of the picture there with the big top hat. His name is Verdun. He's the person who runs this entire island, and he's had the red gem in hand for over 30 years, and no one knows where the blue gem is that entire time. And so that's the world our boy Nandi here is kind of born into. And yeah, he would love to just hang out with his friends on the beach all day and explore his island, but it doesn't quite go that way for him, unfortunately.
So it's like, does this have uh like chapters or series?
It does. It has chapters. It's 14 chapters. It's 368 pages long. It is not a series. It's actually a standalone story. So
Okay.
the 368 pages, it was barely enough. I could have done double, honestly, but I wanted to fit it all into one book. And so
Mm.
I had to kind of cut out a few more like smaller parts of it just to make sure everything was the way I wanted it to be. But I did manage to fit it all into one book. It's a standalone. I needed it to be that way because I'm first and foremost a fan of fantasy and comics and things like that, and I have a lot of experiences getting kind of left hanging by my favorite authors. They're constantly like,
Mm.
you know, one really famous example, I guess, is like the King Killer Chronicle, or Game of Thrones is another one where you're so immersed in the world and you're committed to it as a reader, and then the story just doesn't continue. The author just hasn't dropped the next book. It's been 10 years or something like that, and I got tired of getting left hanging as a reader. So I didn't want to do that to my readers. I wanted to just give them a full story from the jump. I think in the future, maybe if we do more stories, I'll definitely try to cut it down and create, series and things like that, just because financially it makes a lot more sense. But this debut novel, I really wanted to give to the people as is.
Yeah. How long did it take you? How long did it take you to write the script again?
So the notes in my phone that I was, I guess, keeping and slowly writing, that was like over a 5 year period. I was just, you could scroll that forever. It was super long.
Oh, yeah.
But when I finally decided to just sit down and actually write the physical script, it only took a week. It was a sleepless week. I literally like barely slept for 7 straight days. I didn't even get from my seat. I think like I probably developed some like health issues just writing that script for that week. I had my mother was like calling me like, hey, like, are you okay? And I was just like, don't bother me right now. I'm locked in. And so for that week, I
Mm.
just kind of got it all out there. The phone notes slowly just disappeared little by little as I was getting it in there. So only a week of actual writing, I guess, but 5 years of proper thought and notes put into it.
Yeah.
And
So you would say this is like your first comic book series.
it is. It's my
Or
first. I
yeah.
actually, when I originally had the script in mind, it was as a movie. I pictured this entire story as an animated film. And
Right.
when I first had the script written out, it was intended to be animated. But I realized very quickly, if I only had a script in hand and I tried to send this to let's say a movie studio or something, they would just kind of take it and put it on their pile of 1,000 other scripts and never look at it again, most likely. And so I decided I
Mm.
wanted to give it a bigger chance to get animated, and the best way to do that was to actually give it, some visuals. And I love comics. I love, both Western traditional comics, graphic novels, and I also am a huge manga and anime fan. So you can tell here my story is, although the story is kind of a fantasy, the art style itself is very manga forward, a little bit more softer lines and bigger eyes and things like that. A little bit more Japanese style there, but yeah, overall, the initial story was a movie script turned into a comic book script.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
actually
yeah. I
see
mean,
it in the
like
story.
who's the artist again?
Cheryl Chang, she's
Sheldon.
yeah, she's from Malaysia. I interviewed like 25 artists or so, and I went through portfolios, and there were so many talented people, but it wasn't necessarily what matched my vision and what I was looking for. And then finally, when I landed on Cheryl, I was like, wow, this is like, this art style she had was incredible. And I had one specific page that I just had each artist draw, and of course I paid each one for their work. And then finally, like, I was just comparing each page, like, because I had them all draw the same page, I was able to get an idea of what it would kind of land on for me. And Cheryl's was just, it blew me away. So I was
Yeah,
very
that's
happy.
pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the illustration. I mean, like looking at it, it seemed like, and by you talking about the story, it seemed like it could be an animated feature film or something like that. You know, like if
Yeah,
you had like a choice, like who would you want it to fall into the hands to make into an animated feature film?
I guess if I had, my pick of the litter and it was my ideals, it would definitely be a Japanese studio. I have a few that I really like, but maybe Madhouse would be like, incredible, for example. But basically, just any studio with, I guess, the resources and the more than the resources, the passion with the project to really want to commit and bring it to life as best they can. What's especially important for me is the physical environment of the story, the island itself. There's so many characters. Nandi is, of course, an important character, but the island, Crescent Island, to me is the actual main character. And I feel it's like a living, breathing place that in an animated film I would want it to be brought to life, and the backgrounds would be incredibly important for me, which was also evident in the artwork. Like Cheryl, when I hired her, it was because she put so much thought into the background, and I wanted that to be through every single page, just like giving people a view of this magical place that existed initially just in my head.
It kind of like while you're telling me the story, it kind of reminds me of Lost, the TV show a bit with the island. It was a mysterious island, and this other movie, it was a Disney movie. I forgot Moana. No, not Moana, but
Oh, Moana, so it could be Moana.
no, not Moana. It was this other animated. It's not in my head. The name of it's not in my head. But like one of the characters, they had powers like superhuman strength,
Okay.
and like some of them they would have like these abilities. Like the from what I remember, like it gave them like superhuman abilities.
Okay.
But it's just not coming to my head right now. But yeah. Yeah, but it seemed like a good story. Like, yeah, like,
Yeah, I'm
dude, like,
excited.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Go ahead. I can hear the rest of that.
So, so you've been to comic conventions. Like, how many comic conventions have you attended with
Uh,
with this
we
project?
we dropped in April 2025, and ever since then, I did 12 last year, from April to August. Then I took a break from August to the new year. I just wanted to spend more time with my wife and kids because I had really dove headfirst into that comic convention scene, and I found that I wasn't fully prepared for what that entails, and I was, I guess, spending less time with my family than I wanted to. So I took that break and I kind of recalibrated, and now I'm back on the scene starting this year, and I feel a little bit more mentally and mentally prepared, and also just more experienced and more able to find that balance between advocating for my product and doing all these shows and everything, but also getting the proper time in as a family man first and foremost.
Yeah. Like, how do your family feel about it? Like,
Oh,
you doing this
yeah,
project?
I'm very lucky. My wife is incredibly supportive. This was a very expensive project to do, having to pay an artist for 5 straight years, doing like monthly work essentially. It was most of my salary. If it wasn't going to food and diapers for my kids, it was going straight to my artist. So obviously, I had to make that decision concurrently with my wife, and so I pitched the whole plan to her. I said it's going to be a few years straight of us kind of being right on that borderline financially, and she gave me her blessing. She said, go for it. I support your dream, and so we did. And ever since the drop, I think out of the 12 conventions I did last year, my wife and kids joined me at about half of them, maybe a little bit more than that, and they love it. They enjoy the conventions themselves. I did one show in Delaware on January 9th, and my one of my kids stayed with my parents, but the other one came with me, and she just, I was gonna leave both of my parents, and I told both of my kids like, hey, you're gonna stay with grandma and grandpa, and I'm gonna do a Comic Con. And then my younger 2-year-old, she goes, Comic Con, I want to go. I love Comic Cons, and she convinced me to take her with me. Basically, I said, yeah, let's do it. And they enjoy themselves at the show. They love seeing the cosplays. They love sitting in the booth with me, and kind of I just give them their coloring books, Play-Dohs, things like that. And they have a great time.
That's
Yeah.
cool, man. That's cool. Like, like what? I forgot the question. Like, they do like, what's your advice for somebody that wants to start off, making a comic and they don't know where to what direction to hit?
I think it needs to start, I guess, with a story in your head if you have one. A lot of people do one or the other with drawing or writing. If you're capable of both, if you're your own artist, that's amazing, and all power to you. That's like, yeah, I like to draw personally, but I can't draw on the level of Cheryl, for example. So
Yeah,
I'm hiring, but yeah, I think just if you're starting and you have a story in your head, get it down as a script. Start with an outline and try to flesh it out. Try to have a complete script. Once you have your script, then you kind of have an idea of how many pages you need, and if you're hiring an artist, then you can start doing the math on your financial commitment. If you're doing it yourself, then it's really just a matter of patience, skill, effort, and time. And then it all starts from there. And the advice would get more specific based on your specific situation. But
yeah.
yeah, if you're hiring an artist, then be prepared to, I guess, really commit.
I think you came up with slow comics.
Slow Comics is my, I guess, personal brand. It comes from my own personal life philosophy that I've developed, which is the slow life. It's slow living. I kind of happened upon it over a period of years where I was traveling basically all over the world, but I landed in Japan eventually. That's where my wife is from, and I was just
Mm,
living incredibly slowly during over about a 2-year period, and I found that the Japanese themselves, they have a phrase like they use the English phrase slow life, and they say it in a way that they referred more to it as just like living on the countryside and farming or something like that initially, but it really struck a chord with me, and I started exploring concepts of slowness in all of its different definitions and facets, and the way you can apply the idea of slowness to your life. And I fell in love with the idea, and it's really just it's permeated through basically everything that I do and everything that I am at this point. Like, I mean, there's like positive and negative connotations with being slow, I guess, but I really like to live life slowly and to do everything slowly. Even when I tell my kids, you know, like they're climbing something, I don't use the word be careful. I just say like go slow.
yeah, that's very interesting. Wow, are you really into Like the like what's your faith? Like the way how you explain that's interesting.
I was raised Muslim. My parents,
Okay.
they're Turkish, so we're Muslims, but never incredibly devout Muslims. More just a little bit casual on that end. I do believe in God very much, but not as religious as your usual Muslim would be. So I guess yeah, my faith is bordering on agnosticism almost. But my philosophy and just like the way I want to live my life can be quite spiritual, I guess, at times.
Mm. That's cool. That's cool. With the with like, is there somebody that like a writer that you was inspired by? Like, I don't know. I think you said it earlier. I'm not. Correct me if I'm wrong.
As far
Inspiration.
as a writer specifically,
Yeah.
when it comes to writers, maybe not too many. Like I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of
Mhm.
nonfiction. I love fantasy. I grew up on fantasy. I guess my favorite, who most people's one of their favorite fantasy authors would be Brandon Sanderson. I love his books. I actually got into writing this book I made before I had read any Sanderson, and then after I completed the script, I dove into his world like head first, and I fell in love with all his books. And he's an incredible writer and world builder. There's a few similarities even between my story and what he's done, but it's almost impossible not to have similarities to him because he's just explored so many different concepts and ideas. So yeah, when it comes to fantasy writers, he's way up there. Um, I'm also a big fan of like Malazan, the big 10 book epic series, uh, Dresden Files, things like that. I love fantasy. I'm a reader first before I'm a writer, so inevitably there's going to be some influence subconsciously, if not consciously.
Yeah.
But yeah, even more than that, though, it's probably the movies and shows I grew up on, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I hear all the time is, you know, like people pointed out, they're like, "Hey, this book reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender in some way or another," and I'm always like, "It's not on purpose, but it's very possible because I think that's like
It happened. It
show."
happened.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I love that show. So, and then movies, it would be Tarantino or Guy Ritchie. I loved growing up those movies with big ensemble casts, like 20 plus characters that are just like it's a 2 hour movie and all these moving pieces are it's pure chaos, but they tie it well. They tie it together really nicely, and they end up making a ton of sense at the end. And I just loved the way they would kind of control their stories and show you all those different perspectives. And so I always knew if I wrote a story, it was going to have that same ensemble cast. There's like, you saw that picture earlier with like the all those characters on that screen. They all get like pretty decent screen time or page time, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah,
How did,
like all these characters are relevant to my story,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
really like doing that and playing with that concept.
Oh. Yeah, like how many characters are there? Like, for you, like how did you like put like the personality into them? If I could ask you that question.
I came up with each of them. I guess the main probably 10 or so of them were characters I came up with before writing the plot of the story, and they were
Okay.
more into the story. And then I came up with more of them as I was writing because I found myself needing a character to fill a specific role or to move the plot in a specific way. But those initial 10 were there from the beginning, and a lot of writers will tell you this, but it depends on your style. And I'm definitely one of those that creates the character, gives them their personality, gives them, lets them be exactly who they are, and then just puts them in a situation and lets them react as they would. And I almost just watch, and just see what they
Um,
would.
yeah, I noticed that your stuff is online, like somebody could purchase it.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
Slow.
that's cool.
So you can go straight to my website, slowcomics.com, and you can get a copy on there. It ships worldwide, although I guess international shipping outside the United States can be a little bit expensive. But I've had a few
Mm.
people, like in recent weeks, in Thailand and France and Japan that ordered it, which is incredible because it does hit them pretty hard with shipping, and they just committed to it anyway. So really,
Okay. And then now, is there like other projects you have in store that you tend to put like like on paper and get another artist to draw it?
yeah, I do have basically another note that's been building in my phone for, as soon as I finished the script for this for Nandi, this I had this other idea in my head that I had been putting off, and I kept telling myself, don't even think about it until you're done with writing Nandi. And so once I made Nandi, once I got all my words on the paper, and I had, I guess, the time to start thinking again about other things, this other story was born in my head, and I've been building a note in my phone for about 3 or 4 years now for that one, and it's quite long. You can scroll it all day. Once again, that just seems to be my style. Living my daily life, and I'll stop usually like 5 to 10 times in a day and just open that note app up and put my little one line in or something, and just continue about my day. But I'm looking
Yeah,
to probably starting this year. I would like to start putting that down as a script as well. It's a really another unique world, another fun story. It has nothing to do with Nandi at all. It's a brand new world that's existing in my head, but I'm really obsessed with it at this point. Like what's really taking over most of my thoughts. So yeah, you can
are
definitely be on
you
the lookout for that one.
are you mostly like fascinated with fantasy? Would you go to like sci-fi or that superhero genre? I don't know. Superheroes kind of like they're getting a little played out a little bit,
Yeah.
because everybody got a superhero idea. But I don't know. Like
Well,
do you have like a project outside of fantasy though? Like a
uh,
crime drama or something like that?
the one in my head is definitely a fantasy. I can't say it's not. I would
Yeah,
say Nandi being a steampunk fantasy, it kind of walks a fine line there, but it does sometimes lean into the sci-fi realm quite a bit.
yeah.
And so yeah, I enjoy sci-fi. I read it. But yeah, this next one is very much like hardcore. It's actually it's kind of fantasy and martial arts. That's like the two things that it would really.
Okay.
So that's gonna
There you
be.
go.
Um, I have this other story. Well, I don't know if I would call it a story, but I would love to at some point write a graphic novel. I think graphic novel would be a great format for this. I don't know if you know who Alfred Russel Wallace is, but it would be a nonfiction, I guess, historical graphic novel, and it would explore the life of this naturalist named Alfred Russel Wallace, who essentially discovered evolution at the same time as Charles Darwin, if not slightly before. And there's a really interesting, I guess, story between those two people that I would like to explore. Uh, the facts are not all there when you read about them. I've read a ton of books about both of these guys, and what you do find is, I guess, letters that they've written and journals that they've written, and you can kind of piece the stuff together yourself. Those pieces of the puzzle, and so I'd love to, as accurately as possible, explore the life of Alfred Russel Wallace, who I believe is one of the best naturalists of all time, and kind of got screwed out of his recognition of discovering like it's called Darwinism, right? And so you've never like if you don't look into this, you probably don't know who he is. But I would love to kind of give that guy a shout out a little bit. And in his story, I wouldn't necessarily call Charles Darwin a villain or anything like that, but it gets a little bit suspicious the way things played out. And so it would be very interesting to me to put that in like a nice thick graphic novel as well.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, Charles Darwin, he had the theory of um apes. What people came from apes,
Evolution,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
He discovered evolution, or he, I guess, put those pieces together, which he does deserve credit for. He did come up with it independently, but yeah, there's just a little bit of controversy in the way he went about publishing the papers, writing on that subject and the timing of it all. And uh, yeah, essentially there were two people who came up with that theory around the same time, and only one of them has ever been historically truly recognized. And I wanted to maybe give a shout out to the other one.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've seen some nonfiction comics at times. Yeah, like I can't think of it. Well, matter of fact, I did look at this comic. It was about this. I think a girl. She was Muslim in China, and she got persecuted. Her family got persecuted, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a little small it was like a storybook, graphic novel type of thing. I was like looking at it when I was at the library. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a very niche. I don't think that would be a super successful project because most people don't read graphic novels for nonfiction. But I found
Yeah.
it to be a really interesting. Like I think Alfred Russel Wallace lived a really interesting life, and so you don't have to reach into the realm of fiction in order to make his story fascinating. I think it's already quite epic as it is. He was a really interesting person with a lot of cool stories and journals, and so thought that would be something to explore. Definitely would be on the, I guess, back burner compared to this fantasy story I have in my head. That's definitely like dominating all my thoughts lately. But yeah, it's a possibility that we end up doing that. And I guess you can tell, but a concurrent theme for me is nature and animals and things like that. I like to write my stories more than fantasy, just about I guess nature. And so ideally, in the future, Slow Comics becomes not just my publishing company, but a publishing company that works with other writers and artists and creators to, bring these stories to life. And I think the overarching theme of Slow Comics would be nature stories
Yeah,
in
that's cool.
some way, shape, or form. Right?
I like I remember I read a comic years ago. It was called Bones. The creator, he was an artist and a writer. His name was Jeff Smith.
Thick, right? Like, it's a
Huh?
big book, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's different series. It even has like a prequel to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've read that fantasy. It was cool. It had like a little comedy to adventure type, like sorcery and stuff like that. Yeah, it was like years ago. It was like these creatures, and it was on a quest, and yeah,
a good time.
yeah, yeah.
I
Is there
think
like is there is there like stories that you read like in the past? Um that you like and
in terms of graphic novels specifically, or just stories.
right, graphic novels. Yeah, that's what I was trying to aim for.
Many of them are kind of the classics. Nothing that you haven't heard of. Probably Watchmen is one of my
Okay.
all-time favorites, of course. I love indie comics, so I try to buy from tiny creators that no one's heard of at the same time. I'm shouting them out recently on my Instagram as well. But yeah, I guess outside of Watchmen, Neil Gaiman would be probably the goat. I know there's like a little bit of controversy with his name recently, but his stories are incredible. So go with him.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I like what you're doing, man. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna I'm gonna check out the comic.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
So like so this artist did she do the coloring or
She did. She did every single thing herself. We
okay.
went over that. I kind of was like, we can do line arts, and then I can look into a colorist as well. And she showed me her work with colors, and I said, like if you want to do both, if you're up for it, then it was good for me. And she came up with one final price that included, you know, lines, and then everything all the way starting from the line art all the way through the coloring. So you can see here, like she just has like
Yeah.
she's really good.
And she's
Uh,
from Malaysia. And,
from Malaysia. Yeah, and we
um,
actually eventually landed on her doing the lettering as well. I was looking into lettering specialists. May or may not have been the best decision to give her all of that because it was a lot on her plate, but she did a great job with it, and it ended up making sense to have her doing the lettering because our editing process was really intense, and we had to make a lot of changes near the end that required her to keep going back to certain pages. That was just due to rookie mistakes because neither of us had done a long term, like a long graphic novel before, and so there were a lot of like issues in the printing process that I discovered as we kept going, and then we just had to keep going back and like change this page over and over.
yeah.
So for being the letterer, that made it a lot easier because she could kind of move her bubbles around the way she wanted to, rather than you know giving like if I imagine if I had had someone do the lettering or start working on it as we were finishing up our artwork, it might have been a disaster. So I've learned a lot of
Yeah.
lessons then, and we won't make those same mistakes with our second project. I'd be very open to working with Cheryl again for the second project. I think she's a fantastic artist, and even more than that, she's just like super consistent, which I found is very important and not necessarily very common in the comics world. Like for years, it was every single month. At the end of the month, I got 10 pages in my Google Drive without fail. So that was like that consistency was mind blowing.
Do you know what program she used for
Photoshop.
like the illustration of
Photoshop.
Photoshop? Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Yeah. I've done Photoshop, trying to do like some illustrations on that. Yeah. Wow. So
Yeah.
how many pages like are we talking about
We have
again?
368 pages.
Wow.
Yeah. It's,
Wow. And by you completed that, but how long did it take you again?
so it was a 5 year process for me. When I
Yeah.
had Cheryl, we were already a year and a half into the project. That was because before Cheryl, I had a different artist, and we made it through a full year of work. And then my artist got sick, like just very. I guess I don't want to get into too many details because it's their personal
No,
information.
okay.
They got sick that they could not continue producing the project essentially, and so I had to just kind of eat that cost and start all over, like fully into the project, which was in a way a blessing because that in that year I learned a lot of lessons also as a rookie, and so with my second, go at it, uh, I knew what I was looking for more in the interview process, and I knew the way that I wanted to work, and I knew also that I needed someone with a lot of consistency in their output. And so Cheryl just checked all those boxes, and we landed on a contract of 10 pages a month. So yeah, it was literally almost a perfect 10 pages a month until the very end. We kind of upped the pace a little bit, but it's essentially 368 divided by 10 for months, and that's 36, 37 months. Um, so
Um,
three years plus just working with Cheryl only.
wow.
Yeah,
And
and
what
then
what do you do? Oh,
uh,
out of curiosity, you don't have to answer it, but what do you do outside of just being a comic book writer?
I'm a dad of two kids, two little beautiful girls. I work
Mm.
at a candy and nut company. Uh, I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, we
I wouldn't
sell.
have thought about that.
That's a lot of us comic book creators. We have to make
Yeah.
comics is not necessarily gonna support two baby girls. So yeah,
Man.
we have a family-owned company. It's called Marlowe Candy and Nut Company. We sell, gummy bears, things like that, and just all the type of nuts you can imagine, pistachios and stuff like that. So that's my day job. I'm basically there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and then outside of that, I'm you know at home with my babies, or that's like most of my time goes to that. And then once they fall asleep, I can catch a little bit of free time, and that's the time that's Mostly actually going to my wife, but outside of that, I'm working on my stories.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I commend you on doing that. It's not easy. Coming up with a comic book story and trying to execute it. It's a lot of developing and process, and I know you like earlier you were saying that you stayed up you stayed up late and
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it was
a lot
rough.
of
Yeah,
hours, a lot of I guess a lot of financial commitment, and just a lot of patience. I think because I was getting my 10 pages a month, which was keeping me going, but I'm also like, man, this is a long book, it's a long journey,
yeah,
and you never know until the end what's going to happen. Even after we finished all the pages, it took a few months to actually get all the edits right, and then the printing process was another huge, you know, I guess obstacle, but it all worked out in the end. Committed to a huge amount of copies. Um, that was in my day job. It kind of supports us and lets us pay our bills and everything. And on top of that, it was, almost very very close there. But I was able to pay my artist for her 10 pages of effort every month as well. The one of the main reasons we were able to do that without me taking any breaks to save up is we did a Kickstarter campaign in
yeah,
2020, and we raised about $30,000 in a month, and that was like, without that, I definitely would have had to pause the project at some point just to get my money back up to keep
yeah.
going.
Yeah, a lot of artists I've spoken to in the past, they when they wanted to do like their own when they did their independent comic, they did it through Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a good way to get going. You do I didn't love the actual process of it because just like asking people for money is just not comfortable
yeah,
for me. I didn't enjoy it. At one bit, it gave me a ton of stress and anxiety the whole time. But at the end of the month, there was 30,000 extra dollars that I could put towards this, and that gave me just a huge cushion to be able to make this project keep flowing and not interrupt the process. So big shout out to every single person that donated. That it ranged from I gave options for, obviously you can put any amount you want, but then with the reward tier system, it was $15 for a PDF and then 30 for a copy, which costs more than the actual copy now if you bought it online. But people were willing to do that just to help support the story. And then it went as high as one. There was two separate people that put in $5,000 each, and that was like mind blowing. But I guess they believed in the story. So
yeah, yeah. I wish you the best on that. I'm looking forward and checking the story out as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you again, man. Do you have any shout outs or anything to say to anybody that wants to do their own comic?
Yeah, I guess shout out my wife and my kids for always letting me do this and not hating me for using all the part time and money on this. And huge shout out to my artist Cheryl Chang. She's incredible, and everyone that is just constantly helping on Instagram, for example, like just friends and family that are like sharing every single post and just always trying to keep my spirits up and to keep it pushing, trying to grow Nandi with me. And in terms of if you're working on your own story and you're on the fence about if you want to dive in or not, I think you got to just go for it and stop. Don't wait for yourself to be good enough or for the story to be perfected. If you have something in mind, I think starting is the most important thing, and then continuing is, I guess, the actual most important thing. There's a quote in one of the Brandon Sanderson books I like by one of his characters, and he says, "The most important step a man can take, it's not the first step; it's actually the next step. It's always the next step." So I truly believe in that. I think you got to just keep going, and you know, I think at the start of the 5 years of this production process, I didn't see a light at the end of the tunnel at all. But you take one step, and then you take the next one. So
Thank you, Mr. Serpin.
thank you.
Appreciate you, yeah, giving me an opportunity to talk with you.
Oh, thank you for having me on your show, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna check it out, and and maybe in the future, we can discuss about the story
Yeah,
and
we can get
stuff.
more.
How I felt about it.
Read it, enjoy it, or even if you don't enjoy it and you have issues with it, I'm happy to get into it. So we can definitely
Yeah,
do
yeah. I mean, you're on Instagram, so
that.
I can always check you out.
There every day. My goal this year is to post on there every single day, 365 times this year. So I'll see your message if you hit me up.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
All right.
You have a